character about bringing the country together, having some of his strongest moments, and that framework. Pretty spirited, but got a lot of substance in it.
Yeah, it was very constructive evening. I think that Americans saw 96 minutes, I think it was in the end, of a very spirited debate. The 2-minute the 2-minute response seemed to work well. I think that President Trump is probably going to feel like he hit his mark a lot better this time.
Hell yeah, he hit his mark.
Last time we saw clearly
a lot better than that Chris Wallace debacle.
Economy through the lens of creating jobs. He was very pointed in his attacks.
She tried to stop him from talking, but she couldn't do it.
Washington. They had some very interesting back and forth on energy towards the end there about the oil industry. Joe Biden saying that
she's
he would
no Chris Wallace.
Transition it out, I believe was the word that he used over time. There were interruptions.
She double teamed him.
Did jump in
a couple of times.
But it looks like she jumped in and cut off President Trump
many
more times than she did with Joe Biden. And we'll
of course. She let Joe Biden go as long as he wanted.
Time when that happened, but it did feel as if there was a little bit more of that on the Trump side.
Don't talk about Bubba Linsky. Don't talk about Hunter Biden.
Exactly how many times that happened.
She interrupted him like 20 times.
The next topic seemed to happen just as some of that debate was going back and forth between the two men. Our panel is standing by with analysis. Chris Wallace, Rick Hume, Dana
oh, great.
Katie Pavlich, Donna, Brazile.
Let me just...
Chris Wallace, your thoughts?
Well, first of all,
Invisible Man.
I would have liked to have been able to moderate that debate and to get a real exchange of views instead of
I'd like to live in a world where
interruptions. I thought it was a good debate.
Chris Wallace didn't really exist.
Competing visions for the country. I thought that Biden had many more specific plans, whether it came to how to handle the COVID, whether it came to how to handle climate change, whether it came to how to handle
his crusty ass
I thought the president's
neocon
presentation, he was more fluid. There were clearly times when Joe Biden seemed to falter a little bit in making his point or finishing his sentence. I thought, honestly, and this may speak a little bit to Martha, that the topics and the questions played more to Biden's advantage than they did to the president's. That may be a matter of opinion, but
because of media bias.
They were questions in which Biden could play offense and the president was forced on the defense. I was really struck by the emails because the president obviously was going to bring it up. He did bring it up. I thought Biden was very successful in kind of countering it by immediately throwing the president on defense about his China bank account, and then especially
his
failure to turn over his tax returns.
What a joker.
During his 4 years, and the president got quite defensive about that in terms of sort of the key clips, moments. I thought that
nobody
exactly
likes
right.
you, Chris Wallace.
You've had all these years in Washington. Why haven't you done it? You're a typical politician, all talk, no action. For Joe Biden, I thought that his best exchange was when the president said, "I'm the least racist person in this room," and Joe Biden said, "Abraham Lincoln over here is the most racist president we've ever had." And,
you thought that was the best thing said? You're dumb. You're an idiot.
As I say, I think a good
that was one of the worst things he said. Trump pounced on him. You were such an idiot.
Several interesting moments. I want to bring Britt into the conversation here.
Why do I watch Fox News?
Landed well from
see all these neocons,
"You're the reason I ran."
Democrats,
Obama and your administration.
Juan Williams,
that I decided to run.
Donna, Brazile.
Your thoughts on what we just saw?
And this mother sucker.
Well, first off, I
Wallace.
thought the moderator did a very good job, and she did at least bring up the subject of this story that is broken on us in the last 10 days or so, and which was much added to today. I'm not sure that the exchange on that was altogether satisfactory. We still do not have, from Biden or the Biden camp, an outright denial of what has now become the issue, which is not only the behavior and the business dealings of his son, but also possibly of the former vice president.
Is that guy with the hair Joe Biden's kid?
Having said that, and I think it's also worth noting, as you all did, that the mute button was effective, and so far as I know, was never used, which was a good thing.
Is that Hunter Biden's love child?
Trump gave his best debate performance perhaps ever, but I think the former vice president, fought him to at least a draw. And I think that the points you all made are correct about Trump was most effective when he was demanding that Biden explain why he hadn't done all these great things he's claimed he's now going to do. And Biden was probably at his most effective when he was talking about, the country's craving for character and so on, which reflects on the president and what a lot of people don't like about him.
Joe Biden has no character.
Well moderated, and not perfectly, but well. And Biden held up well. I think Chris is right that he did falter at times.
Gets 10% of the Chinese
but it wasn't a bad
checks to Hunter.
bad moment where it's likely to make people say, "Oh, wow, what's the problem there?"
He has no character.
And all in all, he does fine. I don't know that this debate will change the shape of the race.
He clearly has no character
Dana, that's, I guess, the
whatsoever.
real big question this close to the election is how much does it fundamentally change the electorate, especially in these key battleground states?
I was just noting that at 11:30 this morning, I was on with Sandra Smith, and I mentioned that 42 million people had voted. By the time we got on air tonight, it was nearly 50 million people had already voted. So this thing is moving very quickly. It's already underway. Whereas the first debate was sort of like whitewater rafting blindfolded, this one was more like being on the lazy river and not even spilling my drink. I thought that it was good for both candidates, that they were...
Leave it to Dana Perino.
And I also think that, whereas in the first debate, Joe Biden cleared the very low bar that had been set for him. The bar for President Trump
But she'd be fun at the lake.
And I also think he cleared it as well. I think that he acquitted himself very well in this in terms of allowing Vice President Biden to run out of steam in his answers, not interrupt him. I don't think that a lot of the policy details were there for the Biden team, and that's been a frustration for the Trump campaign because they feel like they just can't ever find a way to nail him down on a couple of specifics. But I think that the ultimate winner tonight is the viewer, the American people who tuned in, because you really were able to get a measure of both people. There's very different visions for the country coming from these two candidates. Juan Williams, your thoughts?
Well, out of two debates,
a lot of culture questions.
It was pretty...
asked about the talk.
A lot better than the first.
Families of color give to their children about being pulled over. A lot of
Juan Williams is on, so you guys can take a nacho break,
as we watch the Trump family exiting the building now.
snack break.
Well, on that point, I thought it was telling when Mrs. Trump came on the stage tonight, she clearly had a mask on, and I think that said something.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it while this guy...
Trump was to say, well, you've been in office. This is what Brett Baer was speaking of. You've been in office. You've been around. You had your chance. And there came Vice President Biden again, coming back, I thought pretty strongly to say, we did make improvements. We got 37,000 people out of jail. We granted clemency to 1,000 people. We
This
looked
is
for pattern and practice
like Bizarro World.
abuse that would somehow clear up the
This
relationships between the police and
This
the
was his worst issue.
but I think that, my colleagues are right on target in saying...
1994 crime bill.
I don't think it moved the needle in terms of the few undecided...
And Juan Williams thinks it's his best issue, Joe Biden. That's
conservative quarters at the moment. What I saw was
that's
that,
exactly...
Vice President Biden said, I'm not the one that made any money. He flat out said, not a penny.
Bizarro World.
Not a penny, and put President Trump on his heels by saying, well, release your taxes. You're the one that's been making money in
Oh,
China.
brother. He's never gonna release his
Yeah, a
taxes.
couple of points, Juan. One
You
was
guys
the
always
the
is...
US Senate.
That's the
Hitler
oldest
at the beginning.
trick in the book.
Studied my history. I don't think that's the case. But and we also heard that and the reason that they didn't get a prison reform bill done in the Obama-Biden years, was because of a Republican Congress. And President Trump responded, well, I had to work with a Democratic Congress. And so you get it done, and I got it done. So that was an effective point on his part. Katie Pavlich, your thoughts on tonight?
Well, I think the beginning of the debate and the end of the debate were the most important for these reasons. COVID-19 and the economy are at the top of the list when it comes to what voters are looking at candidates for, what their plans are. President Trump on COVID-19 talked in a hopeful way about a vaccine, about moving the country forward in a balanced way to deal with the virus, but also to keep the country open, to get kids back to school. Joe Biden said that he'd be willing to shut down the country again, to shut down schools, to tell businesses they cannot no longer operate if he becomes president. That's a big deal for a lot of
He's gonna
Americans,
shut down the
especially
oil
trying to get back to
industry
work and
too.
have income for a number of months, and while small businesses are going under.
You know,
On the
he
economy,
lost.
At the end, I think Joe Biden did a terrible job of explaining his environmental policy when it comes to
Exactly.
fracking and energy in places like Pennsylvania, which he is still trying to win. He's losing ground in Pennsylvania. There are voters there who are paying close attention
With
to
his
both
own
the
words, he
economic
lost.
plans of both of these candidates, and Joe Biden did a terrible job of defending fracking. He lied about saying that he's never said he would ban fracking. He said in March 2020 of this year that he absolutely wanted to ban fracking. So he's changed on that and was not clear about his energy policy for the workers that he is trying to gain back from.
You try to walk
Trump
the statement back.
Yeah, Donna, the president said he wanted to,
I
Joe
thought that was
Biden,
Kamala.
former vice president, said he wanted to transition away from oil over time. And President Trump said, I hope they're listening in Texas and in Pennsylvania and in Oklahoma.
Exactly.
Your thoughts on that and overall for the evening?
Exactly.
Well, I also hope they're listening on the Gulf Coast where, of course, we've been dealing with a lot of historic storms because that is what climate change is. And I hope they're listening on the West Coast because we're dealing with historic fires, and that is also climate change. So, yes, we need a transition, but I want to make 3 points, and I hope I can make them quickly.
You guys will
This
say
was not
anything's
Twitter
climate
or
change.
Donald Trump, okay, amen. We don't get to be, laughed at or mocked or assaulted with his somewhat demeaning, demoralizing tweets. The tone was different, but it was still the Donald Trump that refuses to release his taxes. Once again claiming that
Oh,
he has
brother, that's a non-issue.
Joe Biden, I thought, made a
Give me a
good point.
break.
The second thing is he said, I have a health care plan. But where is it?
Okay,
It's been
let me
10
pause
years
this.
since
I
the
only got so
Republicans
much time.
my best president. Why? Because he passed the Civil Rights Act. Because he passed the Voting Rights Act. Because he made this a more
Lyndon Johnson killed Kennedy.
He's been the best president, in my judgment, for all
Along with Nixon, Arlen Specter, and all those
Donna, thank you.
all those fools, George Bush Sr. Look it up.
The final presidential debate
Give me a
live.
break. What you talking about LBJ
When we
for?
come back. You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama. Because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I ran because of you.
I am character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Then you're gonna lose. There you have it.